Whatever I'm doing, it can wait.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and I'm very glad to see you in our each online global dialogue video room. And thank you, everybody. And I'm Svetlana Solomatova. I'm Vice President of International Institute of Culture Affairs, and my country for caring is Europe countries and MENA countries. And I hope today conversation or today our dialogue will be useful for each of who are in the room and for people who will watch us on YouTube. And thank you, and hello everybody who will watch us on YouTube, and join us please each week the same time, Thursday, and you are welcome. And today Larry Philbrook will facilitate our dialogue, and I want to give him the chance to be really good facilitator. Larry?
Thank you, Svetlana. So, hello everyone. I'm in Taiwan. Why don't we do just a quick check-in, and each person just say your name and where you are. And then the context for today's session, as you know, is we're continuing from last week's conversation. So we'll talk a little bit about that first, and then we'll go into application as we understand or believe it. So if we could just start on my screen, at least. Anaparna, is it Anupama?
Anupama, yeah.
Namaskar. Could you introduce yourself? Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I will. So my name is Anupama, and most of the people call me Anu because that's much easier to pronounce. And I'm based in Mumbai, India, and I run an organization called In Harmony, which is into the diversity and inclusion space, and we work with corporates primarily.
And Deborah?
Hi, my name is Deborah Fairlamb. I am based in Kiev, Ukraine, and am working with the Cultural and Education Center here in Ukraine.
John?
Yeah, my name's John Cornwell. I work with VSO Jitole, based in Nairobi in Kenya.
Sergey, do you want to introduce yourself or pretend you're not there?
My name is Sergey. I live in Poland, Warsaw. Я есть техническим модератором.
I am technical moderator of this conversation.
And the spirit support.
Председатель фундации Media IC.
And co-founder of Foundation of Media IC in Poland.
Nancy, you seem to be muted. Are you there? Okay, then let's go on to... Oh, there she is. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Where are you?
This is Nancy. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. I work in social inclusion. I'm very passionate about inclusion issues. Yeah,
Habari asubuhi.
Nzuri sana.
Kabisa. Svetlana.
I'm Svetlana. I'm in Ukraine right now, in capital of Ukraine. I'm in Kiev, and I'm very lucky to be involved in this conversation.
And Lily, is it Lily? You're muted. Are you in, or are you observing, or I'm not sure.
Lilia helped us with technical support, and Lilia from Ukraine. Lilia is a journalist, and she moved to Poland, and she is living in Poland right now.
Excellent. And I'm Larry Philbrook. I live in Taipei, Taiwan. I work with the Institute of Cultural Affairs. I'm the director of the ICA Taiwan operation. and have worked with the ICA most of my life in doing community development and organizational change work in a lot of different places in a lot of different countries. I have actually spent some time in Kenya and in India, both doing community work. In the last 25 years, I've lived in Taiwan and worked primarily in Greater China. So tonight what we want to do is continue our conversation about human development from last time, but then go in to begin talking about how we think it actually shows up in action. So everybody, I think, was in the conversation. I prepared a little bit of an introduction about last week's meeting, but since everyone was in the conversation, can we just have a few, what are some of your memories of last week? What were some of the points you remember?
Oh, I remember human development as being an inclusive development of the economy as well as people. And so interestingly, our union budget got presented yesterday, and this was one of the first things which came to my mind, because the budget is largely focused on developing the rural people and the farmers. And it's at the cost of the middle class people, that is salaried people like me, because we end up paying a lot more taxes, because the taxes are going to go to help the people in the rural. So I was just wondering how the inclusion is going to happen, and I was just kind of trying to apply it to the budget. So that's my take.
Anybody? We can go in order if you want. Deborah's next, or anybody who'd like to say something. What do you remember from last week?
I think what stood out for me was the idea of sort of social development, economic development, and human development as all sort of parts of the triangle, or that they all function sort of together. Although it's overwhelmingly the social and economic development that you tend to hear about more than human development. So that was kind of my aha from last week.
By the way, I sent a paper an article to everybody about the social process triangle. Did everybody receive it? I'm not really planning to teach the triangle tonight or anything. I just wanted to make sure I fulfilled my promise.
Yes, you did. No, it was very interesting. Thank you.
Good. John, any memories, or Nancy, any memories from last week?
Maybe it's slow internet connection.
I don't remember much. I was in and out of the session, but the two things that, one, a number of people talked a lot about, our obsession with economic development above all, so the world appears to be pillar rather than the other. So a kind of a mixed up political and
Okay, John, you're going in and out. Interestingly, when we started the call, John was very clear and flowing. As soon as we got the call started, it started going in and out again. Nancy, anything you'd add?
Oh yeah, my highlight was just discussing the consensus bit of it, whether it's possible or not. Number two, the survival, how survival can affect how we view human development, and the importance of context when defining human development.
Well, I tried to listen to the call from last week and take notes on what everybody had said, and then tried to pull it together into a short piece, which I think I've just sent to you, so you won't have had time to read it, I'm sure. But one was that the human development, the context, the whole thing of broadening the context of human development to not just be economic was a big part of the conversation.
Yeah, it was my idea. It was my understanding for sure that we must to change. It was one of the idea was to change to change a United Nation understanding what does it mean human, and maybe it's a big ambition from my side, but
You've always been good at having big ambitions, Svetlana. It's good. The three challenges that you mentioned were, one was the inclusiveness, the challenge of how inclusiveness really takes place, and the second was the consensus, the challenge of consensus, the opportunity, but also the challenge that consensus represents. And then this one that Nancy, you talked a bit about this, and Deborah, the conscious exploration of values and culture to figure out what does that really mean. In other words, if we're saying human development is based on culture, what is culture, and how do we explore that? And then, so what we want to do tonight is to begin talking about, if that's what we're talking about with human development, we're talking about a more comprehensive, inclusive context. What are some of the things that you know of, some of the projects or other things that are going on that you think are entering this realm? It doesn't mean they have to be perfect, but they're entering into this realm of really trying to do human development. So from your experience, from connections or projects you've done, or from things you've seen or heard about, what would you say are some examples of human development that is going on?
And could I share my very short example?
Yes.
I did a strategic session for one village in Ukraine. And in these strategic sessions, we involved local government, business, and community. And I'm really surprised of result of this inclusiveness. And we have very difficult situation in Ukraine, and political crisis, very big political crisis, and like middle range of people who go to election. And last time it was only 40% of Ukrainians went to this to election. But village which I facilitated, in this village 70% of citizens came to election. And everybody points that it's the result of inclusiveness in like inclusiveness of the job.
All right, somebody else. What's an example of what, for you, is an example of this taking place, of human development in action?
So there's an NGO, not for-profit organization that a friend of mine runs, where she trains the youth who have dropped out of school and college because of basically financial issues and family pressure. They come from the lower socioeconomic strata. And so she trains them to become employable. So in skills, vocational skills, in behavioral, in terms of presentation, in helping them to do a bit of gender sensitization, etc., and then prepares them to get employed in various organizations. So that's what she does, and I help to mentor a few, one or two kids. So what she's also done is getting people who have work experience to act as mentors for these children, because many of them, in spite of going through a training, they drop out after a certain point. So that is one example that I have worked with, and I know that it is working, because once they finish this program, they're joining companies like Starbucks or any of these retail fashion outlets, and they help out in jobs which they're capable of doing. And because of that, they're also pursuing higher education, because now they have money to finance their education. So that's one example that I'd like to share.
The organization that I work with tends to use sort of arts for human development, and what that means is it's essentially, excuse me, a place that hosts and supports various Ukrainian artists, and it's everything from writers and lecturers to musical acts and theater productions that are slightly avant-garde. But the approach that this organization takes is using arts as a way to develop conversation and to sort of do cross-border sharing of what a country and its culture is about. So it's a slightly different approach, but it's one that they've been doing for over 8 years fairly successfully, actually.
Great. Any other examples anybody would share?
Personally, I think there are a couple of women empowerment programs in the country that work to support girls in school, and it's all about provision of sanitary towels to girls, but also above and beyond that, mentoring the girls in terms of performance in school. And also, initially we had girls who were pregnant being sort of kicked out of school, but just working with schools so that the girls, after they give birth at home, they can come back to the formal education system and finish their education. So I felt like that worked within the context. Teaching the girls their reproductive health rights and all that, yeah, I felt like the impact of that will be really major. But the second one I want to talk about is Acumen. What they do is they identify youth with projects that are money-making, entrepreneurs who have ideas that can make money but can also impact on their communities, like lanterns, solar lanterns, and all that. Then they give these young people seed funding. The young people can hire people in their communities to work on these projects. So it's sort of like they're being given a loan, not really a grant, which they have back. I was quite impressed with that project in terms of youth development.
John, are you saying something? I'm almost hearing you, John, but not quite.
Mm-hmm. I see John, but it seems like he tried to say something.
That's what I thought too.
Uh-huh.
Ah, here he's typing. Neighborhood inclusive is spaces. Neighborhood inclusive is spaces.
Is it name of project?
I don't know, but John, the bad news is your typing is breaking up like you're speaking.
If I understand right,
he can hear us fine. Okay, that's good. Well, when I was in New York, I worked with a group. I did a community development intensive 2-day program with groups in Brooklyn working with urban farming. And the whole idea of having urban farming be an integral part of the community life. And so we were bringing in facilitation and participatory process. But the projects that they're actually doing are urban farming projects. So beekeeping, chicken raising, vegetables, etc., on the roofs of buildings and in empty lots and stuff like that. So it's quite it's a really interesting integrated project. But Nancy's project made me think about it because one of the groups they work with are endangered youth, not necessarily girls, but both boys and girls, but trying to give them some hope in a different kind of context than just school. So any other projects that people would think of that we would define as human development within the human development context?
If we can call human Ukrainian woman, but we have project of which we call Renaissance of Ukrainian woman, and we have very good results of this project. And we provide full strategic session of her life and help to recovering to find a weak point in her life, understand why it's happened, and when person understands it, she has a chance to change something, and she has a chance to for best future. And now we have results of the job, and in 2 months of our job, we work together. I mean, together it's a club of successful women in Ukraine plus women who need help, and we work together. And in 2 months of our joint inclusiveness job, she started to be director of call center, and I think it's very, very sensitive and very emotional result, because it's impossible to be a simple seller and in 2 months to start to be director of a call center. It's very, very fast career, and this project inspired me very much and inspired our women to move forward and to help other Ukrainian women. And we had meeting in small city outside of capital of Ukraine, and in that meeting were involved more than 50 women, and we represent this project, and we saw how human development we grow up immediately, and I like this project very much. Thank you.
You say you saw how it will grow up immediately. What are some of the things you're describing?
Immediately, it's mean we saw brightness in eyes. It's mean for me. It's immediately when we meet person with I call closed eyes, and people who live without hopeness, and in 2 hours conversation or actions or inclusiveness job, this person, we can see brightness in eyes, and we see hopeness, and we see how we grew up. Not we certainly person grew up dream, and I think it's immediately. Certainly after immediately we will have a lot of gaps, but it's like American like how to say in park for children, when we have up like very, very tall hill, and after hill immediately jump down.
Roller coaster.
yes, and yes, it's maybe it's dangerous, but it's fun.
I like that. Dangerous, perhaps, but fun. Well, anybody else? What are some of for you, what's evidence that human development is taking place? We talked about these examples. What's the evidence for you that human development is taking place? What Svetlana talks about is the spark in the eye. What's evidence for you?
So when it comes to the corporates in India, many of them are consciously recruiting people who are disabled, women. So we had very few, till 10 years back, there were very few women working in corporates. So consciously increasing the number of women who are coming into workplace, making changes in the work environment so that they get to grow and to be at leadership positions and influence decisions. We have a change in the Companies Act where it mandates that there has to be 1 woman in the board of directors. And then now a lot of organizations are consciously helping people from the LGBT community to not just work but also form their own network within the organization and be very comfortable with their whole gender and the sexuality issues. So these are some of the things also which I strongly feel are part of human development, because the inclusiveness is building and you're allowing people are allowed to be their natural self in the company and at the workplace. Besides this, there are like things like counseling. There is a whole lot of things which are being provided for people who are working in companies just because they are a human being, not because they are an employee or they're contributing to the bottom line or to the profit.
Larry, can I ask Anna one question? Additional question. And Anna, you said that it's consciously help. And what does it mean for you, consciously?
Consciously held in the sense, you mean these initiatives?
Yeah.
So basically that it's a focus and it's not something which has just happened just by the way. So organizations are consciously putting an agenda saying that, you know, we need to bring in so many number of women, we need to help them grow in the organization. This is the kind of career that, you know, they should be given equal opportunity. They're no less than, and there is no gender difference. It's only capability which needs to be looked at. So there is a conscious effort.
And who creates this consciousness?
Not conscience, it's a conscious effort. So it's created by the people in the organization, but largely the support has to come from the senior leadership in the company. The directors, the owners, everybody right at the top need to believe that this is something which is going to benefit their people. Once people feel they belong to the organization, then it makes a difference to the organization. So it comes from the top, but idea is to bring the culture of inclusiveness in the organization.
Thank you.
But what you're saying is it's structured in and creating the structures that then support that taking place.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's the most simple way to put it. And easy to understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? What's evidence for you that human development is taking place?
Yeah, for me, I would say there seems to be an increasing awareness that development will come from all sectors, not only from the non-profit sector. So that at least us in Kenya, we are seeing more private sector companies, private companies, taking a role in social impact and social development projects, trying to impact the country in a better way. I think also, like Anu was saying, the appreciation of inclusive development. We can't move if some people are being left behind. And this is being appreciated by governments, private sector, and all that. There's also some level of self-leadership and self-esteem I'm seeing even in community development. Like when you go and see community, youth, and all that, most of them are beginning to appreciate we have to take charge of where we are going. We have to look at what we can do to develop ourselves, so that you'll see many young people trying to come up with projects to earn a livelihood from. They are not waiting for the government. It's not everyone, but at least there's an increasing number and level of awareness by youth and community.
Yeah. What I want to say is that to work with human development is the most thankful thing in my life, and the same moment is most thankful thing in my life. But I know for sure if you concentrate and if you serve to people and to serve with open heart and try to help them in any sphere or any problem resolving, and usually I get back pain, and anyway after this pain I have with my consciousness and create next decision to do the same next time. And I don't know why it happened. I don't know answer for this question. But anyway, I think it's one of my idea why it's happened, because we are human, and it's something nature inside of us, and something push us to feel this pain and to grow up together with people.
Say some more about, or anybody else, say something about the feeling that being engaged in human development or watching other people be engaged in human development, what are some of the feelings, either pain, joy, concern, what are some of the feelings that begin to emerge as you're working in this kind of, or trying to work in this kind of area?
I think a whole lot of satisfaction, hope, and excitement. Those are the feelings that I would associate with it.
I would also add sort of a sense of optimism or hope in kind of a shared recognition of things that are similar. So it's the feeling of not maybe being so much alone, but that there are others out there that you can connect with. And for me, that's one of the sort of more important things of this. It's actually about not just one human developing, but all of us sort of as a collective. Although one human developing is a good thing too.
And I think that without any feeling, or when I say without any feelings, I mean very racial. If we do very racial things.
Yes, rational.
How to?
Rational, like your head?
Yeah,
Is that what
rational,
you mean? Yeah.
very rational.
Okay.
It's impossible to help people to grow up if you have a goal to grow up, or if you don't have a goal to grow up, you have a goal to be among of people. It's impossible to be rational. But if you want to be as much as possible help useful for people, it's impossible to work without feeling. And for me personally, I have so wide a timeline of feelings from optimist, from a high level of optimist to high level of negative things at the same moment. But I know that people feel it when I work with people, and people feel it very much, and this is one of the way to build trust. They start to trust me to my feeling. I'm very open with my feeling, and it's helped very much to work with people for sure. And before I met TOP facilitation, I afraid my feeling very much, but now I understand it's very, very useful, and I use it openly.
When I used to context communities for long-term community change projects, I would always say, I promise you blood, sweat, and tears. And because in the change process, it's always going to be difficult. About 2 years, I was doing a project in Kenya a long time ago, and about a year later, I came back to the community, and one of the elders of the community walked over and said, you were right, you promised us blood, sweat, and tears. We had all that, but we also had laughter. So it's important. It's not that we don't have the positive side feelings. It's just important to keep in mind that it is painful making change.
No, tears is very, very great. Sometimes it's helped very much.
So if we were going to talk about approaches that work, if we were going to say what we think are approaches that work for human development, what would we say are approaches that work? Sort of what are the base ways of working that we think are helpful?
Larry, could you describe me approach? What does it mean approach in English?
It means whatever we decide it means, but the first one that occurred to me was the one Anna was talking about, where there's a tipping point at which structures begin to support the change taking place. That is, there was a time when trying to get women hired or trying to get disabled hired in India was a very difficult task. But there's a tipping point at which the structures themselves start to support that taking place. And it doesn't mean the fight's over or anything like that, but it means there's enough energy in that direction to structurally support So one of the approaches to have structures or systems that actually support the change taking place. And if once those start to get into place, then it works much more effectively, or it works much more broadly. But that was just the first one that occurred to me from what we talked about. This is sort of any way or theme or practice that we think works.
Preparation work very well. It's I have two types of preparation. Preparation like professional preparation and life preparation. Life experience preparation.
Okay, say another word. What does professional preparation mean, and what does life preparation mean?
A professional preparation, that's if I use technology or some method, I must know this method and read a lot and understand how it's work, what works well, what works not well, not good, and like learn a different type of different type of examples, learn everything. But at the same moment, my life is the best preparation, like my life experience. I learned a lot from my life. I according of my life very much, and I like learn other life, other people's life experience. And I accord mostly on practical example, not on theory. I like to use practical, something practical.
Okay, anybody else?
That's a good point about learning from others and sharing personal experiences. And in terms of, I think just from my perspective, one of the most important things is that things are applicable to the local personal level. So in terms of just sort of creating and fostering change, it's making sure that it is pertinent to wherever you are particularly. But then again, at the same time, something like this platform that brings together people from different continents, you can still you can share on that level as well. So it's both the idea, I guess, of local as well as global.
And I wanted a little bit of an idea now and a new understanding that for sure there is no idle method. It's very difficult to find idle method or tool for using. But if we really have conversation or dialogue like we have right now, and share with each other our experimental work, experimental results, I think it's work better than any idle tool or method.
Anyone else? Thoughts about approaches at work?
Yeah, so one, we discuss on the structure, but I also feel a lot of awareness and sensitization work needs to be done around it for the community, and for the individual to realize that, how does human development help me? Everybody looks for what is the meaning in it for me. So, a sensitization for people to realize that when all of us benefit, it benefits me also as an individual. So some awareness, it could be through media, it could be through programs which are run at community level. Like in organizations, whenever we do a new initiative, there's a lot of sensitization that is done. When women are coming on board, we do gender sensitization workshops so that the environment is good for men and women to work together. So the same thing I would think could apply to the community level as well. Also, I think it's not just one, like what Svetlana was saying, it's not just one clear method. I think there are many approaches you need to take all in tandem simultaneously, and that's what is going to make the impact. One other point which I strongly believe in is the ripple effect. So if we are even a one-on-one conversation that we have and we are sharing a result of that with 10 other people, or we have influenced somebody, with a certain change, that person in turn is going to bring in that change in 10 other people the person is going to meet. So, I mean, just the fact of being a good human being with somebody else will have its own impact. So those were my thoughts.
And now, Anu, thank you. I understand one more very important thing. I think it's important that understanding of human nature is very important for us. What does it mean, human nature? For example, if we understand that nature can live without us, but we need nature, it's work very well. Or people, other point. For sure, people doesn't need government, but government needs people. If we understand this rule, like very simple rules, and I think it's helped also very much.
Nancy, your face is very big on my screen. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, in terms of what is being like, I'll say ownership is very important. It's human development.
Nancy, could you say louder a little bit, because no.
Oh yeah, I'm saying community ownership. Yeah, whatever we are doing should be something the affected people believe in and contribute in and believe in, yeah, and own. So I think that will be very important to me. Hello?
Yes, Nancy,
Yeah.
I heard the last part of what you said, but not the first part.
Oh yeah, I was talking about ownership, yeah?
Ownership. Now
For
I got it.
Yeah, it needs to be owned by the people if it's a project we are planning to do. And I think evolving to fit needs, I think sometimes because we are stuck, especially in the development world, because of donors and plans, we don't evolve to meet the community needs. And I think that's when you lose touch with what you really wanted to achieve. Yeah, learning from our experience and just evolving.
Yes, I think that's and supporting the community to evolve or to recognize the evolution that's taking place, because often the community is not conscious of its own change.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we try to do with our projects is to have people from other projects come visit, so that the projects can talk about what they're doing, because we found it makes a tremendous difference in their getting a chance to say to somebody else from a nearby village, this is what we do. Everything changes. Because as long as they're just doing it, they don't recognize what they're doing. They don't realize how much change they've made until they get a chance to tell somebody else about it.
That's an interesting point. Do you do that in terms of like it's a narrative of we have accomplished this, or how do you sort of facilitate that?
It depends on the situation. Sometimes it's more formal like that, like we're going to start another project or working with another community. We bring that community to an earlier project and say, to the earlier project, would you tell people what you did? And then they do a tour or they do a storytelling or whatever. Sometimes it's more just a reflective process. I mean, I remember when it happened to me once in India when I was doing the project. I was working in villages outside of Mumbai, and I was very depressed and, didn't think anything was changing and all this kind of stuff. So I went to Mumbai for Christmas, this Christmas morning, Christmas Eve, and so I was very depressed. And then our director in Mumbai said, would you tell these two Canadians who just arrived here what we're doing? And I said, I'm not the right person to tell them what we're doing. I'm not too happy with what we're doing right now. He said, that's okay, just tell them. And so I started telling them what we were doing. And by the time I'd finished, I'd realized, wow, I've learned a lot. Wow, I've changed a lot. Wow, we're doing a lot. But until I sat down and, had to discipline myself to tell somebody else what was actually going on, that was not my story. And so part of it's just figuring out ways to do that. You're talking about art. My son worked in a project in Pittsburgh where they were taking inner city youth, working with arts as a way to help them redo their story of what was happening in their lives so they could complete school. And he was the IT guy, but he was working with this project. And one of the other projects we work with in the U.S. is called, I don't remember what it's called now. They do a Colquitt. It's called Colquitt Storytelling Academy. And they get communities together to create their community story and then act it out, sing it out, or dance it out, their community story of their community history. So it's not about development, it's not about new projects, it's about the history of that community. And different people tell their story and then they write it up into plays and stuff. But it's all about how you create that new story, because this is part of human development. A key part of human development is how do we create the new story that's going to have enough strength to overcome the old story. And that's the difficulty. Because like with handicap, you're talking about handicapped or disabled people working in the office. It starts out with the story being we're being nice to them. And so they really should be thankful that we're giving them this opportunity. And eventually it gets to the realization that their presence is transforming everything. And so it's not that they should be thanking us or that somebody should be thanking somebody else. We're all in this together, and that shift to being all in this together is where the inclusion piece actually takes place. So it's no longer you're doing this and I'm doing this and we're inclusive. We're a thing. And this is who we are. It's not that you're this and I'm that, but we're a thing. And how do we, but shifting our story to that point where that story is not disrespecting the individual, but is somehow we're all better because of it.
Larry, your speech now remind me that the tool which we use for women recovering right now, it's totally, we do totally what you said right now. It's a real story. We start from this story, life story, and we call it map of success, yes. Map of life success. And it's very, very powerful tool. And I remember when I found this, I used this tool in my life when I met my second husband, Vladimir. At first, I started
to
talk about my life. My life, yes, it's worked very well. And
I like Vladimir, it works good.
Yes, but he was first person in my life with whom I tell my life story. And it was this story improved me very much, improved myself very much.
I think this is one of the pieces, one of the approaches about human development is that it's both personal and corporate. It's both personal and social. That it's not an either-or kind of option. It's a both-and option.
Yes, but if you talk this story, I know I met a lot of people in my life who use this method with keeping silent and to tell themselves his or her own story. But I think that it will be very powerful if we can be transparency to others, and if we can create space, like space when people will be trust each other and will open for telling own story, and I think it will grow up human very much.
Well, this gets us to the next piece, which is, all right, if these things work, what are we going to do with them? I'm also aware of our time. We have about 10 minutes left.
Mine, I think 2 minutes. Okay. So, this brings me to a very interesting site which I had seen recently. again on women development, and there's a site called She Says, something like that. So the site is only about women who post their stories either as a blog or they give a video recording of their life success stories. And the site is meant to inspire other women from these stories. So anybody can get onto the site and put in their story. It's free, and the whole purpose is just to encourage somebody. And so I kind of, this idea is really nice about writing new stories to overcome the old stories. I think it's quite powerful. Sometimes we don't give value to our own stories, thinking that, like what you said, Larry, that, even somebody asked you and you said that I don't have much to say, I don't think there's an impact. But once you started speaking, you realize that there is so much you have done, and you never know how the other person is going to take it. The person can be inspired by some small thing which you have done. For that person, it could be something really big. So to really believe that what you're doing is going to make a difference to you as well as to somebody else.
Nancy? Nancy wants to say something.
Sorry, what are we discussing now? Maybe I just lost for a minute.
What can we do?
In terms of human...
In terms of moving forward with these approaches we've been talking about, etc., what can we do?
Yeah, I think just to embed what we've learned in our community work and in our workplace. Yeah, just to feed this into our day-to-day life, because, like you said, we don't take time to reflect. But I think this dialogue gives us a chance to reflect and to learn from others. And I think the main thing is just to embed what we learn.
I couldn't hear that.
I think I got most of it, Nancy, but I thought you said we need to use this in our work and community to take time to reflect and learn from others. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Larry, you're a genius. How is it possible to catch it?
Sometimes I'm very good at listening. Not always, but sometimes. Any other thoughts about how to move forward in terms of human development for ourselves?
And for me, it's very important, and I do it almost each time because I learned this tool from lean management, and core of lean management and lean management push people to make experiment. And experiment work is very powerful tool, and I started don't afraid to make experiment, and I do it each time, each day, almost each day.
What kind of experiment? Do you mean just trying something new?
Yes, something new, and I try to be hero each day, to do something different from what I did before, and try. And how Larry said before, I am nervous a little bit before I start this meeting. I'm nervous each time, but heroism from my side to do anyway something new, and according on my internal feeling. According on my internal feeling, and do something new, and it's work very, very well. I don't know why, but it's work.
That's very interesting.
I think one of the things which you brought up, Larry, is that you listen sometimes. So I think one of the things which we can do in human development, part of it is to really listen. Often we don't listen. We have our own thoughts and we feel this is what is going to work. We are ready with solutions, but if we don't listen, we don't know whether these are the solutions which are meant to be there. So probably, in my opinion, listening is one of the biggest things, and respecting each individual, because every human being is different. So really respecting the human element of an individual. I think each one of us in this dialogue, if we are able to bring that in itself, is a big impact. And this global dialogue is, I think, another initiative towards human development, because we're looking at a global scale, something which Deborah has said, it's not just community, we're looking at a global level also.
Well, and I also thought from something Nancy said earlier, in our work in NGOs, because I work both in the corporate sector and with nonprofit sector, and the funding drivers often feel like they're getting in the way of human development taking place. That is because we have to make a promise to do something, and then we have to see what the community actually wants, and so it feels like a very challenging place. But I think we're in a time now where more voices are being heard, both for the funders and for the NGOs and the community, that they understand the conversation is a conversation, that it's not, everything's not fixed in stone. And so I think one of the key things with human development is to bring that human dynamic into the conversation, where we're always checking to make sure that the envelope is actually closed rather than assuming it's closed. And that makes a big difference. All right, I think we need to come to closure. Is there anything you'd like to say to close our time together?
All right, time is move on very fast. It's like, and what I want to say for resume of this conversation, and thank you, Anna, you pushed me to this phrase, and I understand I am not. Sometimes I am not hearing well, but I am listening well. And I think it's very helpful for human development to pay attention people, and to pay attention other person life. To pay attention is mean try to understand why it's happened and what happened in his or her life, and to share with him or her empathy. Yes, it's called empathy. It's empathy work well, and don't afraid to be empathy to other people, and don't afraid to bring other people in your life.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to say anything?
So Larry, I must compliment you for facilitating a wonderful session. You hardly spoke, you just kept putting a lot of questions and making us think through so many things. In fact, I think whatever we have spoken is because we did a lot of self-introspection in the course of this 1 hour. And I think that itself is a huge development for us sitting here participating in this dialogue today. So thank you.
Yeah, and Larry, one of the best facilitators in the world. It's true. It's not compliment to you, Larry. I know it for sure. And thank you. And we must learn from you very much. From you, from Martin, and maybe we create some webinar for us for global online dialogue participants, and maybe you share with us your knowledge and help us to improve our professional skills also. And thank you very much for your facilitation for today, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
It's been a pleasure. I hope to be in Ukraine in October, so hopefully I'll see you.
Sure, and you have a bed in my apartment.
I know.
It's free.
I know that. And Nancy, I may be in Nairobi. I've agreed to do a UN project in UN leadership program in Nairobi or later this year, but the date is not yet clear, so I'll let you know that. And Anna, I may be in Mumbai. I just got back from Mumbai a couple months ago.
Oh, wow. I was just going to ask you, are you going to discriminate Mumbai and not come here?
No, we have an ICA in Pune, just outside of Pune and Telegaon, and so I've promised them I'm going to come, but I haven't actually committed a date. My wife will be there in October. She's going to do a social artistry training program in October in Pune, and then she'll also be in Sri Lanka. But I haven't figured out when I'm actually going to be in India. I have several responsibilities, one of which is to make enough money for ICA Taiwan to survive. So I have to balance all these different factors in what I commit to. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, and I hope to join your sessions again. I probably won't join next week, so I'll be in somewhere doing something. I don't remember where it is next week, but but it's been fun.
Next week we are going to talk about youth development. And if you come to October to Ukraine and you have a chance to meet Deborah also, not only
Whatever
me.
whatever needs to happen will happen. I know Poland in November is going to be difficult, but I'm always open. We'll see what develops. So, but thank you for your time. You can get my email from Svetlana, or you have my email because I've sent you all emails. If you have questions or anything else you'd like to talk about, I'm always glad to talk. But for tonight, we'll sign off and say good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Have a great day to all of you, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Sergey, thank you very much for technical support.
Yes, Sergey and
being with
Media IC,
us.
we love you and appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. We love you also. Thank you, Nancy.
Hi, thank you.